Um, so, welcome. From El Lugar in Costa Rica, the resort that we are building down here. Um, oh my God, can I just tell you, this place is beautiful. Wow. Wow. Okay, so I wanted to just do this live quickie to tell you guys what the heck is an RDD? What the heck is that? What does it mean? Well, RDD is relationship done different, and it's an access specialty class. Basically, the name says it all about creating relationships done different. But I wanted to kind of jump on here and talk about it a little bit because I've facilitated these classes for many years now and had a bit of a break there with what I've been changing. But also, one of the things I've had to look at for me is where I've been doing the tools of access and doing these tools of RDD, but not necessarily being them. And this is an extremely confronting um, part of a lot of people's lives is relationship. I mean, it's one of the big things, right? You look at what you put a lot of your energy into your life is relationships. Relationships with friends, relationships with lovers, husbands, wives, families, kids, all of those things. And what it would be like to actually have to be able to create something really different. Because see, relationship is one of the things that we tend to create based on how we've seen them being created as we grow up, or based on how we see them created in social media and on movies and the fairy tales and the fantasies of relationship, rather than what could you create that's actually generative, adds to your life, and actually contributes to creating a greater world. And for me, that was the big part, was the contributing to creating a greater world. And I I don't know about you, but one of the things that man, it is hot here. If you come to Alagar, bring a fan. There you go. Or close your doors and put the air conditioning on. But it's just so beautiful with it open. And so this thing with relationship and the confronting thing is looking at, okay, so what would I have to change in my relationship for it to be a contribution to a greater world? For it to be something that's actually contributing to a greater future, not only for me, but for everyone. And see, that's the thing. That was one of the really confronting things that I had to look at was there was a lot of things in my life that I was doing. Well, how do I get this to work for me? How do I get what I want? How do I get the result? Not what's going to create greater possibilities. So the one of the things that we talk about in RDD is the isn't it funny? I'm like sweating, and in the past I would have been like, oh my God, I'm sweating on a Facebook Live, and now I really don't have a point of view about it. Well, something's changing. There you go. The tools of access, they work. They work. Okay, good. What was I talking about before I went off on my little thing? So one of the tools that we have in this RDD, one of the things that we look at is the 5 elements of intimacy, which are honor, trust, vulnerability, gratitude, and allowance. So these, what I've found is having and beginning. This is let's just say it's a journey. This journey of consciousness is definitely, as the name says, and it is a journey. And you'll go, wow, I have more vulnerability, and then the next day it'll be like, okay, here's where I don't. Here's where I'm not willing to be vulnerable with myself. Here's where I'm not trusting myself, and it's like, and rather than following the standards of this reality, which is, or the standards of this world, or the standards of what you grew up with, which is basically, well, if you don't have something right, you should judge yourself. No, this is an invitation to, oh, wow, there's more. What else is actually possible? Wow, I have more of me, and today I'm getting shown where I'm giving me up. Wow, now I get to change that too. Now I get to be more included in that area of my life as well. I get to have more of these elements with me. So let me just hello everyone who's joining. Um Wow, I am so easily distracted today. I say that as if it's just today. That's amazing. I say I'm so easily distracted today. I'm just, oh, there we are. I'm just easily distracted. Let's just say it how it is. So, oh, so many things that I wanted to talk about on here. So this thing with the standards of relationship, and if we look at that, what did you grow up with as the standard to relationship? So I know for me, on one side, it was how do I find somebody who should take care of me, who should do everything for me, who should basically provide for me, so I don't actually have to be included in this area of my life. And another side of well, without me getting into it, because I don't really want to get into it on here, but I will, but I won't. But it's like, and on the other side, which was an opposite of you should do everything that I want. So relationship by standard was always a conflict in my world. So what's the standard of relationship that you grew up with that's now creating your standard of relationship that you don't have to live by anymore? Everything that is times a godzillion where you destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, perverts, and beyonds. And if we look at another thing with this, basically the standards that we live by is that thing that I said before of if you don't have something right in your life, then you must be wrong. How much energy and how much effort do we put into getting our relationships right? What if they didn't have to be right anymore either? And what if this thing of, one of these elements, the thing with vulnerability, was just having the vulnerability with yourself, beginning with you, and looking at, okay, so what do I actually desire in my relationships? What would me being me in my relationships be like? And kind of, because, see, here's one of the things that I've done in relationships is I've used them as a source for basically as a way to not have to create my own life. So it wouldn't, as long as I had somebody else in my life, then it could be, okay, so let me follow what it is that I've decided you need me to fulfill. So I don't actually have to look at what it is that I truly desire, because if I don't look at that, then I know I don't have to choose it. And if I fulfill your needs only, and that's the way that I do relationship, then I always have somebody else to blame for why my life doesn't work. Anybody else do that? Anybody else have that one going on? Everything that is times a godzillion where you destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, perverts, and beyonds. So I say that because I kind of like to use myself as a little bit of an example in this, but also without the standards, you can actually look at what is. See, as long as you have that standard for the rightness of your point of view, then you don't get to see what it is that's actually sticking you, what it is that's actually stopping you with this. So if you can look at something like that, look at it and go, oh, wow, yeah. And can I say with this, and this has kind of been this has been an ongoing awareness in my world, but more so a lot recently, is I have done everything I can to avoid really digging into what is actually true for me. Anyone else done that? When you're like, you'll find anything to distract you, anything to take you away from actually being present with yourself and looking at, if I could have anything as my life and living, if I could create anything as my life, what would that be? Whew, let's just have a little moment with that. But what would it be like if you actually had the vulnerability with yourself to look at that? And I'm talking about this because here's the steps to actually creating relationships in your life at work. What would it be like creating a relationship if you had no need of somebody? What would it be like creating a relationship if you had total trust with who you are? If you liked yourself? if you honored yourself and your choices, if you had gratitude for you, like if you just woke up in the morning and were like, wow, I'm so grateful for me. I'm so grateful that I make choices every day to become more of me. I'm so grateful that I have gratitude for everyone in my life and everyone on this planet. I'm so grateful that I have the gratitude that allows others around me to get to be and have more of them just by being in my presence. And you know what? And with that as well is what would your relationships be like, and creating them on a moment by moment basis? Because here's the other thing with relationships is they're a creation. They're not something that we get in and maintain, which is what I'm assuming, if anyone else is like me in this, is like that's what a lot of people do. Let me get in relationship, get it to a point where it's maintainable, and then just keep in maintenance mode. Well, a relationship done different, a relationship that actually works, is one that's always in creation. So let me get to how you get to that in a moment. But so this thing with vulnerability, what would your relationships be like if you had total vulnerability with you? If you're willing to recognize when the walls and barriers come up in your world and go, oh, okay, what am I trying to avoid here? And what am I trying to defend? What am I putting barriers up to this for? And in that, see, because it's not about, once again, it's not about getting vulnerability right. It's not about getting any of this right. It's the willingness to ask for something different and recognize when you're actually choosing something to be more in line with these standards. So what would your relationships be like if you had the vulnerability, if you had that kind of vulnerability with you? And you're willing to have that kind of vulnerability with another person. Because here's the thing with that is we tend to do a lot of projections and expectations in relationships of, I want you to be vulnerable with me because I'm not really willing to have that vulnerability with myself. Or I want you to be grateful for me because I don't really have that gratitude for me. And it's this constant thing of give and take, rather than this thing of, you know what, I'm going to show up in this and be everything that I can be right now and not expect for you to have to give that to me. Little confronting, but also, what would it be like if you could create your life and your relationships like that? Everything that brought up times a godzillion, where you destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pop, all nine, shorts, boys, perverts, and beyonds. So if you haven't heard that clearing statement, that is the Access Consciousness Clearing Statement. You can find it at theclearingstatement.com. Here's another thing I wanted to say. I did 3 free relationship calls, basically along all of these topics. Free relationship calls. They were awesome, and it was right before New Year's. You can still get those, so hopefully someone can put that in the comments here. They were really cool. A lot of info in there, so if this is something that you would actually like to have some difference with in your life, because who wouldn't? Wouldn't it be really cool to actually have some ease in this area? To actually just be able to be honest with yourself in this area? I know that's what I'm going for now. I'm really going for a lot more honesty with myself. So here's one of the other things that I kind of wanted to touch on with this, because what it always comes back to for me is what relationship I have with myself. The relationships that I have with everybody else and everything in my life depend on the relationship that I'm willing to have with myself. If that's not in check, and if I'm in judgment of myself, or if I'm doing need, or if I'm doing fight, or if I'm not willing to actually be vulnerable with me, if I'm not willing to have that relationship with myself, then my relationships in my life don't tend to work the way that they could. So this thing of having a relationship with you, I mentioned that I'm in Costa Rica at the moment at this resort called El Lugar that we are creating down here. And I've basically had the place to myself for the last few days, and it's been intensely uncomfortable with the amount of presence and space that is available here. And one of the things for me is when there is that much quiet and that much sense of space, one of my demands of me at the moment is to begin to get really honest with myself and really start seeing where I'm not being that. And this is part of my relationship journey with myself. So what I noticed with being here was I noticed how much that energy was there of avoidance in looking at what it is that's actually true for me. And I'd notice when the space would actually get to a point of uncomfort in my world, where it would be like, okay, so what can I do? What can I do in order to avoid this? And I realized it's not just here, but I realize where I do that in my life. So where do you create doing in your life as a way to avoid being? And a way to avoid being present in your life so you can actually get the awareness of what is true for you. Everything that is times a godzillion, you destroy and create it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, povads, and beyonds. And it sounds so simple, like, because you could go, yeah, I'm like willing to be quiet and like have my space, until it really gets to a point. Here's where I want to kind of have this conversation from, is none of this is about being an accusation of anything. It's more so about looking at something and going, oh wow, does that apply to me? And if so, where do I actually do that? And I saw this for me, and I said previously in this, that thing of, I have done everything my whole life to really avoid having the space to get really honest with what it is that's true for me. So, what would it be like for you if you were to create the space in your world to begin to actually get the clarity of what it is that is true for you? Everything that is, and everything that brings up times a godzillion, where you destroy and create it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, povads, and beyonds. The howler monkeys are going off now. You probably can't hear them because of my noise cancelling devices, but they're just amazing. Oh my goodness. But here's the other thing, is with being somewhere like this also, is one of the things that we've done with relationship is we create them based on connection. And we have a definition of this basically with what we talk about of relationship is the distance between two things. It's maintained by 2 points of connection. So there's always a distance. There's always a separation between those two things. And that's how relationship works. So if you look at this part, like notice when you're in relationship and you start getting really close to somebody, and it'll hit some level of distance that is the comfortable distance between the two of you. No closer is actually going to be acceptable with the vulnerability that you're willing to have. So notice when the relationship gets really close, or you start beginning to get more of this intimacy with each other, or could be with yourself, or could be with money, could be with business, could be with anything that you're in relationship with, which is basically everything. Can we just say we create these relationships with everything in our life, is as soon as it gets to the distance that is acceptable, that no closer is acceptable with us, we will create some upset to push it further away. And then we will have it on the opposite side of the coin of once somebody gets too far away in this relationships, we'll create something to bring it closer. So everything is running based on distance. Everything is running based on separation. And when you come to a place like this and tap into the communion that we actually have available. See, communion is where everything and everyone is included and no one and nothing is judged. It's consciousness. It's the way that everything is interconnected. Everything is part of one. Everything is part of oneness. And what would it be like if your relationships were created more based on communion but not based on connection? What would it be like if you had that sense of how these things in your life could actually be a contribution based on your willingness to have no judgment or have no need of it? And these are bigger conversations to get into, but welcome to RDD. You know, and that's one of the things that I love about this class and facilitating it is there is so much that we can go into with this huge topic, right? I mean, you bring up something like that. What's your relationship with money like? What's your relationship with your body like? What's your relationship with sex like? What's your relationship with your relationships like? You know, what's your relationship with you like? And look, the thing I said about the vulnerability and having the honesty with yourself, that's a confronting question. If someone was to ask me right now, directly, full disclosure, what's your relationship with you like? My honest answer would be evolving. Would be, you know what, that's something I'm working on every day. And that's something I'm never going to get to completion with. It's something that I'm only just beginning to actually enjoy the creation of. I'm only just beginning. And this is 42 years into my life. I'm only just beginning to really enjoy finding out who I am. I say that because what would it be like if that was what relationships could be? You know what, I'm really actually I'm stoked, I'm excited to actually find out what this is, to find out what communion with this would be, to find out what it is that's actually true for me, or true in this, or what actually would contribute to this, what would create greater. And that takes some serious courage to actually look at something like that, because in order to have that, you have to be willing to look at where you do need. Oh, the N-word, that dirty, dirty N-word. But if we look at that, is how much is need the standard of reality? If I don't need, then how do I receive? If I don't need, then how am I going to know that I get anything? If I don't need, then how am I going to predict and project my future? If I don't need, what do I have? Everything that is times a godzillion, where you destroy and uncreate. Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pop, all nine, shorts, boys, perverts, and beyonds. Now, wow, I should keep this to a quickie. I think I will. Otherwise, I will just talk. I could keep going on this topic. But here's one of the other things: is how many of the projections, expectations, separations, judgments, and rejections did you buy about what relationship is that you are now fulfilling based on the needs everybody else has had of relationships that were never yours to begin with? Everything that is times a gazillion, where you destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine, shorts, boys, perverts, and beyonds. Someone's texting me, and I thought she was texting me because maybe my sound went out or something, but she's not. She's giving me more jobs to do. Kind of a relationship assist. So, what else was I going to say about this? So many things, so many things. But welcome to basically a taste of RDD. And I really wanted to get on here and do this because I'm excited with facilitating these classes again. I'm really looking forward to where I can go with this and where we can go with this now, based on where I'm at as a little bit of a, well, not even a little bit, a lot different space when it comes to this, and different way of looking at it. So I wanted to mention that. Also, if you're just checking this out, so much cool stuff out there. I wrote a book with Simone Milasas called Relationship. Are You Sure You Want One? Gary Douglas wrote a book called Divorceless Relationships, which is phenomenal. So many cool things, so much free stuff out there on YouTube and everything like that. But you know what I'm really interested in with this is people having way more of them. People going on that journey to discovering what it is that's true for them, and if that's in their relationships, if that's without a relationship, if that's whatever that is, really contributing to people getting to liking themselves a lot more. And it is a journey, and it is ever expanding and ever evolving and really confronting. And welcome to something that could be a lot closer to what you actually desire to create as your life. And one of the things for me with getting a little clearer on this relationship with myself and what I'd like and what I'd like as my future. And can I tell you, this is baby steps. I feel like I'm right at the beginning again with this stuff. But how does it get any better than that? What if that wasn't judgeable? What if nothing was about getting to that standard of rightness and making yourself wrong for any way you've decided that you don't, that you're not there yet? What if you could be a whole lot easier on yourself and go, oh, wow, that's another thing that I can learn, another thing that I can find out about me. What if one of your main priorities in life and one of your main targets, one of the things you strive for the most is that you're going to like yourself more? All of you, the good, the bad, the ugly, what you've decided is evil, what you've decided is wrong, what you've decided you can't change, what you've decided doesn't work, what you've decided just all that stuff. Everything that is times the Godzilla when you destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pop, all nine, shorts, boys, perverts, and beyonds. And I'll say something here that's, man, I didn't really get for a long time, and I'm only just seeing this, is what if everything that you've decided is wrong about you is actually strong about you? What if you could start, here's the question.